like the things that once mattered just won't matter anymore. They won't matter anymore, but it's not just happening for a select group of people. Hey y'all, this is Ifeani, and I'm Big Sis, and I'm just making this video to clear my mind, really. So today's January 10th, 2025, and we've just had an experience and are still currently experiencing pretty large fires in the Los Angeles area. About 5 fires have been started since Tuesday. They've been extremely devastating in multiple areas, and there are a lot of emotions that have come up for me, a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings. It's not really easy to just pass past those feelings. So I'm like, okay, I don't really know if I can talk to anybody candidly about how I feel. So I figured, why not just record it? So here we are. I live in the Woodland Hills area, which wasn't really affected by the fires, but did get close to a fire that appears to be started by someone particular, an actual arson, the Kenneth fire. But in watching these fires unfold from the Palisades, my boyfriend was actually working in Malibu at the time the first fire broke out in Malibu. And I really was just like, wow, I can't believe this is happening right now. Very much so, like, this is really crazy that this is happening right now. Like, what the actual fuck? So I was just like, okay. It's on fire. The wind was super windy, so I knew it was bad. Like, I just automatically knew. I'm like, this is going to be terrible because the wind is so bad. There's no way to control it. I think I've been in a state of shock. I've also felt so many different emotions: confusion, sadness, a weird sense of like feeling like I knew that this was going to happen in some type of way. Couldn't really predict this specifically, but just knew that something catastrophic was going to happen at some point this year in our country. Because I've been feeling like this thought process of like, there are going to be events that come and force us to regain our humanity, because we've gotten so far away from our humanity as people. We don't have consideration for one another. We point fingers at one another. We blame people for everything. We assume that we know the reasons why things are happening. We try to reason and try to give ourselves comfort and peace by knowing that there's a reason for these things happening. But I think that all of these things that are happening are just going to bring us back to humanity in one way or another. But being present in the moment as something is happening and it's actually affecting, like we eventually got a warning to evacuate. So we left, but then found out that the warning was lifted because they had directed the fire and got things kind of like slowed down in the area by us. So they were able to get it to another, it was going to another area. So it's just like, okay, you know what I'm saying? But going through these things, even though I've had these feelings in the last few years of like, we're going to be faced with our humanity. It's really been tough to watch. It's been tough to see the comments online. People are feeling all type of different emotions, in which they should, and I'm feeling as well. But I can't lean to one side and say, this is God. This is God punishing people for their sins. Like, no, I don't personally adopt with that ideology anymore, of people being us being punished. um I think that there's more of a natural laws at play here. Like, we think about things like global warming, and we think about things like, um what just weather patterns and things changing, and seeing that, like, I personally don't align anymore with a God that punishes me. um we have free will on this planet and on this earth, and I think that my actions reflect what happens to me. And I think that that's what happens in reality. But then there's these off chances of where things and shit happens. And it just shows us how out of control we are. I think that when it comes to things personally in my own universe, I'm a person that just believes, like, my actions, my thoughts, my beliefs dictate my reality. And then there are things, life happens. There are tragedies that happen. Like, I've tried to make sense of a lot of things in my life previously, and I think now it's kind of like tossing a lot of these things up in the air. Not specifically this event, but just the work that I've done on myself in the last few years, my way of knowing things and what I thought. It's like, and I believe a lot of people are going through this in their own way and own personal life. Like, the things that you used to believe just don't necessarily like add up anymore. And I do feel like there's a new world that's coming into play. Like, the things that once mattered just won't matter anymore. They won't matter anymore. But it's not just happening for a select group of people. It's not just happening for the elites or a certain demographic. It's happening for everybody. Like, what once mattered doesn't matter anymore. The illusions are coming, they're crumbling. And we realize, like, what life really is. The facade and everything that's like, oh, if you do this plus this plus this plus this, then you'll have a great life. I think all of that's in question. I think the formula is being, like, remixed, and this, people are deciding to create their own formulas, because situations like this, these fires, like, I know I feel like I'm rambling at this point, but like I said, these are just my thoughts. So I think that, like, these fires are really checking us on our humanity. Like, I don't really care whose house burned down. The shit is tragic. I don't really think every person who, it's like seeing you can make the argument in the spiritual community of, like, this is because of all the evil that's been done in Hollywood. Well, it's like, well, what about the people that have nothing to do with that? And their families had nothing to do with that. Their house is burned is leveled as well. These are the people of color. You know what I'm saying? People of all different backgrounds and walks of life have been affected by this. So I can't just say the Pacific Palisades. The Pacific Palisades is not the only place that burned down. But I think that in the grand scheme of things, there's more things that unite us as humans than there are that separate us. And I think we've used material status, titles, things outside of us to make us feel like we're separate, or even skin color, nationality, race, whatever you want to call it, right? To make us feel like we're separate. But at the end of it, no matter what our traditions are, no matter what our ancestors did or didn't do, no matter what, we still humans. We still all on this earthly plane and having these experiences as humans. And that's what unites us. That's what can unite us if we release the illusionary belief that we're so separate and we're so better than these people because we don't do this thing, or we believe we're better than people because of what our skin color looks like on either sides of the coin, whether you've been on the lucky side of that or not, right? I don't know. I just think this situation, and being in it just really brings me down to what really matters. And all of us breathe. All of us bleed the same, put our shoes on one pant leg at a time, piss, shit, eat. You know what I'm saying? All of us have the ability to experience a myriad of emotions in any given day for any given situation. And while we all try to separate ourselves, the reality is that we are the same. And it's hard for me as a person who's a spiritual person and has had these thoughts of judgment upon others easily. Feel like I'm kind of stepping away from that a little bit more, because I just realized, like, that's continuous separation. It's a continuous way to divide. It's a continuous way to polarize ourselves when we all should be working together. We all should be giving love and compassion to each other, truthfully. We all really got to figure out what really matters. What's important. What is at our soul's core, and that's love, the frequency of love. Our hearts beat, you know what I mean? And this particular situation just doesn't feel right. To pass judgment, who am I? If I'm passing judgment on them, I'll be no better than them. Not that I'm trying to be better, but it's like, but it's interesting. A lot of people, you know, especially in LA, it's people that's, the homeless is rampant here. We like see the reality of it, like, well, some people are just homeless. But it's so easy to get into a situation where you're homeless in LA. Extremely expensive prices, food, everything is expensive. You miss one thing and you at the risk of being out on the street. Landlords are not, I've had very gracious landlords, but not all landlords are gracious, and not all landlords have good intentions. Finding an apartment here, people easily scam. It's a lot of dirt that goes on here and everywhere. But from moving here, I just seen like the reality of life. Like, there are whole communities where it's just normal for someone to be shooting up, doing drugs on the street in a tent. That's just normal. People are just walking by. That's a normal occurrence. And doesn't matter what their income is or whatever, it's become something normal. So moving here, you know, I just seen the realities of life. I think that I've been able to see the duality of life. I feel like this place, LA, is a space where you can literally experience heaven or hell. I think that a lot of people, you know, had been experiencing a lot of wonderful and a lot of just easy living, easy breezy. And it's kind of being flipped on its head. I'm not saying that that's fair or right, but I believe that it's kind of being flipped on its head. And like, a lot of people are experiencing their own version of hell right now, whereas a lot of people have been experiencing that version of hell, you know, and will hopefully at some point decide and be able to step into their own version of heaven. But either way, there's a lot of duality in this place. There's the level of extreme wealth versus the level of extreme poverty. I think you're able to see both sides of it. And where do we find balance? Where do we find balance? I feel like things are being leveled out a little bit because there needs to be balance. I can't think spiritually and not think in reality as well. I can't pray and not do any work. I can't do no work and not pray. I'm sorry, I can't do work. All I do is work, 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 and not think that there's something outside of me that's running more of the show than me. But I can't pass judgment um, without passing judgment first then on myself. I don't know. This time has been really an eye-opening time. It brought up a lot of fears in me that I didn't realize that I had. Wasn't necessarily scared on the inside. I felt a strange sense of calm through all of this, but still the logic. Like, for me, I've always been a spiritual person, so like it's easy for me to have like faith that everything will be all right, and that I did. And I knew that regardless to whether we were affected directly or not, lost everything or not, that I would be okay. But I couldn't help but when the evacuation and fires warning got close to us, think like, no, I gotta get up out of here. Like it was like back to that fight or flight. Because of watching everything on the news and seeing how like quickly things just shifted. Shit was just burnt. It wasn't anything like quick. So for me, it was just like getting out my thoughts, getting out beforehand, before there's a large evacuation or whatever the case may be. I think that there's a lot of, like for me, God has just been, or my higher self has just been dealing with me on the ability to balance. Be prayerful. Know everything is going to be all right, but put in the work in order to get to the destination you're trying to get to. And I think this is no different. Prayers to LA, but don't just, pass these things up as if it's not happening. Because we get so desensitized by seeing things through our phone or on the internet, like, oh my goodness, prayers to so-and-so, prayers to so-and-so, prayers to so-and-so. It's like, no. Like, okay, y'all. What's the changes? What changes can we tangibly make? How can we be more compassionate for ourselves? How can we help one another in these spaces and in these times more directly and more efficiently and more realistically? There's balance. And I don't know if these fires are, in the spiritual community and world, it's like the fire brings balance. A lot of the time, fire means rebirth, the leveling of homes, right? Leveling. A good friend of mine, as he checked in with me and him and another friend checked in on me a few days ago just to be like, hey, let's make sure he stays okay. And I really appreciated it, as well as the other people that checked in on me during this time. But he just said, we all on the same playing field when it comes to Mother Nature. And we are. You just realize like you can be affected by any of this stuff at any moment and any time, and to judge others and believe that it is something that they deserved for their wickedness. I just can't stand behind that thought anymore. I do think it is a time for us all to dig deep and connect back to our humanity. Regardless of the cause of any conspiracies, and not saying that I ain't one to be like, that sounds like some BS, because a lot of this fire does sound like negligence. It's so many different factors. Negligence, climate, Mother Earth, the spiritual significance, the astrology. It is all right. There's so many different people saying all these things in these realities, and like, it's all a thing. It's all a thing. Where was the mayor? Why were fire hydrants empty? The freaking astrological placements right now are insane. reaping what you sow, what your ancestors did, and all that type of stuff. All of that can be a possibility. It all can be a reality. But at the end of the day, we still all human, and we still all going through, and a lot of us have been suffering through things outside of this where we deserve compassion. We've been going through it for years and years. A lot of us have already lost everything before and these are these people's experiences, losing everything. A lot of us have already lost a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? So the compassion is needed. Less judgment, more compassion. As these days continue in 2025, thank you for coming to my rant and my emotional thoughts about this topic. I don't really know. I don't know, but I know, but I don't. Isn't that the meaning of life and shit? When you realize an intelligent person knows that he knows everything and nothing at all at the same time, and that's really what this boils down to. But y'all, just check your compassion. As I leave this video, just check your compassion. You know what I'm saying? Check your heart space and your heart posture. For yourself, for your community, for your fellow humans, not just the people that look like you or believe the same thing you do, believe in the same God as you, in your humanness, your humanity. Check your heart and your compassion and your understanding.